We built a life-saving bridge across this landscape, but it's not the kind of bridge you normally think of. Despite the odds, a wildlife corridor has been stitched together all the way from Mount Diablo State Park to Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve. And one of Mount Diablo's final pieces, the Nunn-Paulsen inholding in Mount Diablo State Park, has just been protected. Wildlife corridors are vital passageways for animals. These stretches of protected habitat offer wildlife a safe path between essential territories so they can reach food and water sources and breeding grounds. Housing developments, freeways, and other forms of habitat loss can narrow these corridors or even cut them off completely. That's why protecting this one, while it's still wild, is so essential. This habitat from Mount Diablo State Park to Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve is especially important. These beautiful stretches of blue oak woodland, serpentine slopes, creeks, and grasslands support a variety of flora and fauna, some of which are found nowhere else on Earth. From large creatures like bobcat and mountain lion, black-tailed deer, and golden eagles, to creatures as small as the American kestrel, Alameda whipsnake, California red-legged frog, and California tiger salamander. So many creatures need this connection. In particular, the Nunn-Paulsen property is an exciting piece of it. The land here is rugged, steep, and incredibly biodiverse for a small property. It packs more variety into 5 acres than you would find on most 500-acre plots in the area. In winter, you'll see seasonal streams with small waterfalls, and the property sits at the feet of 2 prominent peaks, Mount Olympia and North Peak. This habitat could easily have been developed into housing if it weren't for the Nunn family. Contrary to popular belief, parts of the mountain are still vulnerable to development. Inholdings are privately held properties encircled by public land, like the state park. Saving these inholdings from development is critical to maintaining the park's integrity. Thankfully, the Nunn-Paulsen inholding is one of the last few inholdings inside Mount Diablo State Park. Until recently, even for small acquisitions, laws required state parks to go through a lengthy approval process from several different agencies. It was so difficult that many deals fell through. That's why Save Mount Diablo helped to champion a new law, Senate Bill 630. It passed, and now SB 630 allows state parks to skip the multi-agency approval process for adding lands with acquisition costs of $1 million or less. Finally, Mount Diablo can begin filling in these gaps. The Nunn-Paulsen inholding couldn't be in a more valuable spot. This small area faces our crucial link between protected lands. We always knew this area was vulnerable. In fact, in 1976, the organization's very first acquisition was the corner piece, right here. The corner piece is 117 acres of blue oak woodland at the corner of Morgan Territory and Marsh Creek Roads, purchased from Morgan Territory Investment Company. But at the time of purchase, the corner piece was a full 4 miles from the state park boundary. Soon after, Save Mount Diablo worked with Mount Diablo State Park to protect North Peak, allowing the creation of the Olympia Trail to Mount Olympia. One of our early partners in this vision was Bob Nunn.
Yeah, we've been farming in Brentwood since the early 1880s. I was in contract to purchase what's known as 3 Springs, and through that negotiated an arrangement to just preserve the home site and then sell the remainder of it at the same price I had as an option to Save Mount Diablo, and that's how it started.
In 1992, he sold 78 acres of his property to Save Mount Diablo, who transferred it to Mount Diablo State Park. We now know this beautiful area of the state park as 3 Springs. Bob Nunn then joined our board of directors for a time, and Save Mount Diablo kept looking for ways to save the rest of the corridor before it was too late. We were lucky. Our community stepped up in times of need, and we made several breakthroughs. Over the years, we and our partners protected numerous separate pieces of land to stitch together the wildlife corridor. To give you an idea, let's walk through 6 examples. When Save Mount Diablo bought this land, it was suffering in the midst of a drought and heavily overgrazed. Thanks to funding from our generous community and a new grazing agreement, Chaparral Spring is now a thriving, protected oasis, home to Mount Diablo sunflower and Mount Diablo globe lily, sharp-shinned hawks, and golden eagles. The botanical diversity here is incredible. It has over 100 species of flowers, including 5 California endemics, because it's crossed by the only band of serpentine on Mount Diablo. Its highest point is a 1,420-foot knoll. From there, you have incredible views down the Clayton Valley to Sassoon Bay. At its base lies a mossy, fern-filled stream canyon. The land rises again to a rocky meadow of wildflowers, where you'll often see hawks and turkey vultures riding the constant breeze. Irish Canyon is a vital watershed property with over 297 species and a permanent pond. This purchase was a huge piece of the puzzle, right in the middle of our aspiring corridor. Since protecting Irish Canyon in 2007, Save Mount Diablo volunteers have been encouraging its ecosystem health by planting more oak acorns and protecting vulnerable oak saplings. After 15 years of work, Save Mount Diablo finally signed an agreement with the Concord Mount Diablo Trail Ride Association. Though the association continues to own the land, this conservation easement permanently protects it from any future development. That's essential because this slope of North Peak is part of the Mount Diablo High Peaks ecosystem. Up to 17 special status wildlife species may use the unique habitat here. The Crane Pond property is an incredibly important piece of land because it's one of the largest water sources on Mount Diablo's north side, drawing all sorts of creatures like bobcats, red-legged frogs, and migrating birds. It's spots like these that help knit together this biodiverse food web in the East Bay. The Balzerzak inholding in Mount Diablo State Park has 4 converging stream canyons and black oaks, blue oaks, chaparral, and fire-adapted knobcomb pine woodland. Inholdings like this are always exciting because once we cleaned it up and removed the fences, we knew animals from the surrounding park would be able to benefit from it again. The Nunn-Paulsen property was one of the last remaining inholdings in Mount Diablo State Park after numerous acquisitions that we worked on in partnership with California State Parks and the East Bay Regional Park District. The special ecosystems of Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve and Mount Diablo State Park are why we worked so hard to get here. Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve holds a variety of grasslands, foothill woodlands, mixed evergreen forests, chaparral, and streamside habitats. This habitat diversity results in amazing wildlife diversity. The park is home to the northernmost population of coulter pine, as well as a huge diversity of native plants like black sage, desert olive, and dahlia. Endemic plant species like Mount Diablo globe lily, Mount Diablo sunflower, and Mount Diablo manzanita also find refuge in the preserve. There are more than 100 bird species, coyote, fox, bobcat, deer, and mountain lion, as well as reptiles. The preserve provides habitat to the elusive Alameda whipsnake and harbors the northern edge of habitat for the beautiful western side-blotched lizard. A well-known gem, Mount Diablo State Park has everything from creeks and ponds that stay cool in the summer to stands of foothill pines and high-elevation ridges that sometimes receive snow in the winter. You can find blue oak and live oak woodlands, oak savannas, grasslands, and chaparral across the mountain's many slopes. The range of climate zones from the base to the summit provides much-needed flexibility for the plants and animals who live here. Thanks to years of work and community support, these 2 parks form a connected refuge away from cities and freeways. In the East Bay, balancing people's need for housing with wildlife's need for open space can be challenging. The Nunn family has been involved in many development conservation projects, like Trilogy at the Vineyards, where 90% of the land became a new state park, Marsh Creek Historic State Park, and 10% was developed. Recently, Bob Nunn, still a resident of the mountain, re-entered our story. The neighboring Paulsen property had faced foreclosure. He was at risk of development,
and I ended up buying it just short of foreclosure. And we spent a little money cleaning it up with, a variety of ideas that we had, placing a new house on it.
He was already permitted and ready to go.
We had an ADU already approved on the main house that was 2,700 square feet. It was all mainly designed to look in a southerly direction because it had a view of pretty active 30-foot waterfall that you can see in the canyon.
In August 2025, Bob's father, Ron, passed.
We were probably just going to keep it as is, but ended up finding a way to move it forward to Save Mount Diablo in a manner to kind of honor my father.
That land is now a generous memorial donation in honor of Bob's father, Ron Nunn.
He was always looking for something to expand his imagination and learn a new trade, basically, which was fun to watch.
Ron left a monumental impact on Brentwood and throughout the East Bay. Missed by many, his legacy will now include the protection of some of Mount Diablo's most striking habitat. Rich with biodiversity and near this amazing wildlife corridor, the Nunn-Paulsen inholding now helps strengthen the link between Mount Diablo State Park, Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve, and the integrity of Mount Diablo State Park itself. That's a beautiful thing for local conservation. From the biggest to the smallest, all creatures will be safer. And permanently protecting all of this? That's priceless. Thank you, Bob Nunn. In memory of Ron Nunn, 1933 to 2025.